So for anybody that doesn't know Motion Media, I'm Brad from Motion Media. We've been an Autodesk Gold partner for a long time and have been selling all the media and entertainment products, ADC products, Shotgrid, of course. And you know, if you aren't familiar with us, you can check out our website at motionmedia.com, and we can help you, you know, make decisions about which software that you need for specific things, or help you get, you know, get licenses set up, all that sort of thing. So definitely check us out if you haven't already. And Eli will be doing the presentation today, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to him and let him entertain you for the next 30-45 minutes.
All right, folks. Well, I'll do my best to be entertaining. Nina, I don't know if we're pronouncing your name correctly, but you responded in the chat to say that you haven't used Shotgun yet, but you know it. Do you mind just telling us a little bit about what you've heard about Shotgun? You do have to unmute if you're going to tell us. Is that a no? You're not going to unmute? You don't have to if you don't want to. So one thing that you might have heard about Shotgun is that it is called Shotgun, which is not actually true anymore. It is now called Shotgrid. I have been with Autodesk for 7 years. I'm a specialist in Shotgrid. I used to be a specialist in Shotgun when it was called Shotgun. Now I'm a specialist in Shotgrid. And I often call it by the wrong name because I'm more used to the other name than the new name. Before I was at Autodesk, I actually was a customer. I was using Shotgrid. I was a production manager. I've worked at animation studios. I've worked at visual effects studios. I've worked at game studios. For a while, I was just freelance running around to different studios, helping them set up Shotgrid. So that's how I ended up doing what I'm doing now. At Autodesk, I am a tech sales product specialist. So I spend most of my time helping studios to get started with Shotgrid and to just understand how to get value out of Shotgrid. Any tool is only as useful as the value you can get out of it. Today, what I'm going to do is sort of talk through what Shotgrid is, how it might be useful for your studio, some of the new features that have recently come out in Shotgrid. And I really am hoping to get a conversation going between all of us where I can hear from you, the types of stuff that you're curious about, the questions that you might have. I know there's going to be a variety of levels of sort of experience with the tool. So some of you may know Shotgrid well, some of you may have used it before, some of you may be totally new to it. The key thing is that all of you have gotten, hopefully, a Grubhub gift certificate and are eating something delicious while this is going on. This is the most important factor for this presentation. I don't know if you guys realize this, but we actually get to see what you order on Grubhub because we gave you the gift certificate. So, you know, we're really hoping that you're enjoying that kebab wrap, Philip. And we'll just roll on. So this is the challenge that your studio faces. You've got a new project and you've got information going in every possible direction. You create a file in Maya, you're sending that file via an email to someone, you're putting it on a network drive somewhere, someone else is creating a PDF of notes on the file and then sending that in an email to someone else. That Maya file then needs a render to go out, which has to go into Nuke. All of these different things are happening simultaneously on a bunch of different people's computers. Some of it's happening in the cloud. So keeping track of all of this information moving in different directions can be pretty challenging. If you have a very small team working on only one project, then this might work. But as soon as you get a larger team, as soon as you get more than one project going, this becomes an unsustainable mess. And that's where Shotgrid comes in. This is the problem that we're hoping to solve for you. Shotgrid is a hub of information. It's a collaboration tool. It's a tool that allows you to share information with the rest of the team about what's going on, what's been done, what's going to be done. It's a way for you to be able to see what's going on other people's desktops, to see what reviews are happening to other people's assets, see what's coming down the pipe toward you. And all of the plans that we make for a project are constantly in flux. So it gives us a chance to keep an eye on the plan as it changes while the project is moving forward. And we'll talk more about plans and how they change as we go forward in this presentation. Shotgrid has 4 basic experiences that make up the product. Shotgrid has a lot of different UIs and even separate tools, desktop tools, cloud-based tools, but they all collaborate to create 4 basic experiences. You've got production management, which is basically tracking statuses, understanding when things are supposed to happen, when they actually do happen. You've got creative collaboration, which is your review process. It's the ability for an artist to submit something for a review, for someone else to respond, for an art director to say, hey, this is done, or hey, this needs changing. There's vendor communication, which includes both clients and vendors communicating with each other. You may have a vendor that is doing work for you. You may be a vendor to someone else. In any case, you need to be able to share information with someone who's outside of your Shotgun setup. And then tracking and reporting. So tracking and reporting is as you're doing this production management, doing creative collaboration, doing this communication with vendors and clients, you're creating all of this data inside of the Shotgun database. So now you want to start tracking and reporting that data. Now you want to take that information that you're developing by keeping track of it inside of a single database, by having a single point of hub of information, and you want to start digging into that data a little bit. So all of these are connected to each other. They all feed back into each other in a big cycle, but we'll take them on one at a time for the purposes of this presentation. We're going to start with production management. So production management, we first of all need to look at separate projects. So we've got all these different projects in here. Each one has its own stuff that needs to be managed. There's a menu where we can set up configurations for the site as a whole. But if we dig into this particular project, you can see up at the top here, we've got assets, sequences, shots, tasks, notes, versions, playlists, etc. So each aspect of this project is able to be tracked here. And this is also a landing page for the project itself, and this is totally customizable. So I would put on this page the stuff that's the most important for the people who are working on this project. And this page might change over time. It might start to look a little bit different as we get towards the end of the project. It might look very different at the very beginning. If we dig into one particular asset, here we're going to look at this particular sort of plain thing. You can see I can look at the tasks for it. I can look at the notes for it. I can look at the publishes for it. Sorry, I just lost control of my video for a second there. So as you see, I can focus on particular aspects of this asset, and it's all available on one page. So it's easy for me to quickly flip back and forth to see the different things that I need to focus on with this particular asset. And then I can also go to something called the activity page, which gives me a sort of chronological view on the different things that have happened with this asset. In this case, it's a bunch of notes that have been put in by Shayna Duguid, who's supervising the work on this project. Then I can also follow it. I will appear in the list of followers. This is a way for me to get updates on this asset as changes come in. And then I can just use the activity page to type a note directly into someone. So here I've lost my thread again. So here the note that I am writing is about a note to the artist about what is going on this project. So now I'm going to switch into a different mode. I'm switching into light mode. It's just a visual change. Shotgrid has a lot of different ways that I can customize the way something that I'm doing looks. Here we're looking at a Gantt chart with a series of tasks. This is a way to look at the schedule. So you can see here we've got what we call tasks in Shotgrid. Each task is assigned to a particular pipeline step, so I can know which department is responsible for that task. I can know which person has been assigned to that task. And I can also know which reviewer is responsible for responding to that task, and what the schedule for that task is, when it's supposed to start, when it's supposed to be done. I can update all that information visually inside the Gantt chart. I can click and drag on these colored bars in order to adjust the schedule. I can create dependencies so that these start and end dates are automatically updated. Does anyone have any questions about the production management stuff? I went through that stuff pretty quickly. It's a very general overview, but I'm happy to dig in a little bit deeper on particular aspects of anything that I show you here. We don't have to move so fast through everything. I just don't want to dig in deep onto anything until I hear from one of you that that's something that you're particularly interested in hearing about. If there's no questions about production management, I will roll on into creative collaboration. Now, as I said before, creative collaboration is the process of review. It's an artist being able to submit work for review, a reviewer being able to respond. So let's dig into creative collaboration a little bit. So this is a tool which we call Shotgrid Create. This is the hub for where an artist or a reviewer gets to see the work that they have that needs to be done, the work that they have that needs to be reviewed. So I'm going to use this here. This dreadnought texture that I just clicked on, that is a task inside of Shotgrid. Inside of Shotgrid Create, the task shows up with a little thumbnail. It's a little bit more visual friendly for an artist to view. And I can actually open that task in Maya. So I can use Shotgrid's integration with Maya in order to open the task that has been assigned to me. On the other hand, as a reviewer, I can see the work that has been done. So I can look at my reviews. I can play back a task that's someone else's task, but where I'm assigned as the reviewer. I can write a note directly inside of Shotgrid Create, and then that task drops off of my review list. So I can see exactly the stuff that I need to review that I haven't responded to yet. I can also dig into stuff that I have already responded to if I needed to dig back in and look at something I've already reviewed. All that stuff is available to me in Shotgrid Create. We have different filters that are available on different pages. So let's say that I'm an artist and I'm interested in responding to the review that I just got. So I just heard from Alexander Glass that I'm supposed to adjust the reds so that they're closer to the concept, go brighter. So now I take my work, which I'm finished with, I drop it into Shotgrid Create, and then I can leave a little note, hey, here's the brighter reds. This is what you asked for. It gets dropped right into Shotgrid Create, and then they can see that, that turntable here. And then I can go right back into Maya and do the work that I needed to get done. When we open Maya from Shotgrid Create, when we launch the integration, it means that we get what we call the Shotgrid panel on the far right side. You can see up at the top, it says task, texture, status, and progress. It's got a little face in the corner. That's telling me which task Maya knows that I'm working on. So as soon as you get Maya to be task aware, as soon as Maya knows what task you're working on, then Maya can know things like where to put that file. It can send a play blast directly to Shotgrid for a review. It can make that whole process a little bit easier, a little bit more seamless. Hopefully, this means that artists are spending less time organizing files, sending emails back and forth, trying to figure out what they're supposed to work on or what they're supposed to do next, and they spend more time in Maya actually getting work done. This integration exists not just with Maya, but with 3ds Max, with Nuke, with lots of tools that are not Autodesk tools. We have a variety of integrations available with Shotgrid. I'll talk a little bit more about those later. But this is an example of publishing directly to Shotgrid. So I'm sending my work out for review. And then I can also use the loader to load in assets that other people have created inside of Shotgrid. Do we have any questions about the creative collaboration aspect of Shotgrid? Feel free to jump to write your questions in the chat or to write your questions in the question and answer panel. Either place, I will see them and will respond. But if there are no questions about creative collaboration, I will move on to client communication. So this is client-vendor communication. This is talking to clients, to vendors, talking to really anyone outside of your Shotgrid site. This is a way to share information that you have in Shotgrid with people who don't have Shotgrid logins, who you don't want to give access to your full Shotgrid site. You just want them to see one tiny sliver of the overall picture. So we're going to show you something here called Review Notes. So this is the Review Notes app. This is an app that's specifically designed for a screening room review. So I am a production coordinator sitting in a room with some people who are looking at visual material on a screen. And it's my job to write down everything they say. And this is a tough job because it's not just writing down everything they say. I'm going to have this playlist up here and I'm going to write down looking great, approved, because that's what someone said. But they're also going to ask me questions. They're going to say, oh, what was the last version we saw of this? What was the note that we gave 3 versions ago? So this page is divided up into 2 sides. On the left-hand side, you've got a list of all of the items in the playlist, and you're able to just type the notes in right next to them. And on the right-hand side, you see detailed information about the particular one that you're typing a note in on right now, so that you can dig in and answer all those questions that are coming up in the middle of the review. This is a quick way to be able to take notes on an entire playlist and then send all of those notes via email to someone who may not even have a login on the Shotgrid site. So they get those notes via email. You can even review those notes before they go out. You can save those notes and allow someone else to review them before they go out in an email. It's really designed in order to have as much control as possible over the information that you're sending outside of your studio. Now I want to show you the client review site. So you can see here we're inside of Shotgrid, and now we're going to share this playlist via the client review site. So what happens is we move into a different mode, which is the client review mode. And I'm now going to invite people into client review. This invite sharing happens via email. It's not through a Shotgrid login. So again, I'm to be able to send an email to someone outside my organization, just as I did with the sending the notes out for review. And then that person is going to get an email invite, and they're going to be able to log in and see the playlist that I've shared with them. They can only see the specific playlist that I shared with them. They're able to leave notes back about what they've seen. They're able to even have an approve button so that they can say, hey, I approved this. This is a feature that was actually added due to customer feedback. We had created the client review site, and we were letting people were using it, and it was just the same as leaving notes inside of Shotgrid, where there's no, you can update a status or not. The approved button here doesn't update the status inside of Shotgrid. It's essentially just a way to make it completely unambiguous. The thing that you want in this review is for that stuff to get approved. So we want to give you a button that makes that completely unambiguous. Any questions about client-vendor communication? If there aren't any questions about the stuff that I just showed, then I will roll on into tracking and reporting. As I said before, tracking and reporting, it's taking the data that you have created through the production management, through the creative collaborations, through the client-vendor communication, and then starting to track that and analyze that in different ways. So Shotgrid has a lot of different ways to share, not just share information, but to visualize information that I think is pretty useful. Let's take a look at some of the stuff here. So here we've got a pie chart. It's a pretty simple pie chart. It's shots, and it's what status those shots are. So this is all the shots in this particular project and what status each one of them is. Now, let's say I want to dig in a little bit deeper onto this. I can actually find out exactly which shots are in each of these statuses. I can hide the statuses that are not relevant to me and see only the statuses that I think are the most important. I can see the information in a variety of different ways. I can also switch between different views. Instead of seeing this in a pie chart, now I want to dig in. I want to see exactly what 5 shots are ready to start, see the names of those shots, and maybe even dig into those in more detail. So all of this is available in one dashboard, which is entirely customizable. This isn't a dashboard that we build for you. This is a dashboard that you build based on what you need. We can also create multiple dashboards on a single page using the tabs in the upper right. We can export this information into a JPEG image, save it as a CSV or a JSON so that you can analyze it and process it using other software, other platforms. We want Shotgrid information to be as passable as possible from one platform to another. It should not be a siloed tool. We also have the ability to do basic calculations on the data that's here in Shotgrid. So this is similar to where you're creating a formula in Excel, something like that. In this example, we've got a day rate for each task. And then we have the time logged percent of the bid from each task. So using some of these basic calculations, we could multiply that percentage by that day rate, and we could find out how much money has been spent. Obviously, some of this is going to be really confidential information, like the day rate for a task. So that information we can set with permissions, and we can decide exactly who's able to see different columns that we're making visible here, where we're putting information, who's able to edit those columns, who's able to delete information. The permissions in Shotgrid are actually very, very granular, give you a lot of control over what people can see, what people can edit. I also wanted to give you a sense of the overall dashboards that you can set up in Shotgrid. One of the most powerful things about Shotgrid is how customizable the pages are. So here we're looking at a producer dashboard. This is all the information that the producer is most likely to find interesting about the project. Here we've got the comp lead dashboard. It's going to have slightly different widgets. It's going to have slightly different information, tasks to be assigned. They're assigning tasks. That's the thing that they most want to know. Then we've got an outsourcing dashboard. This might only show information relevant to tasks that have been assigned to a vendor. It's not going to show you tasks that are internally. All those filters are completely customizable by you in order to track the information that's the most important to your project. This is a new tool that I want to spend a little bit of extra time on. We call it resource planning. And this is an area that we hadn't really gotten into inside of Shotgrid up until just this past year, where before you begin on a project, and everything I've been describing so far has really been more useful once the project is in flight, but this is talking also about planning the project in advance, where you're setting up what the schedule is going to look like, how many people are going to be assigned to different tasks, and then starting to balance how much work is being done. The one thing that you can see here is that there's some red, there's some blue. The blue means that someone doesn't have enough work. The red means that they have too much work. And you'll see that throughout. I'm going to get into a little bit more detail on this tool in a moment. So here you've got a basic line chart. The purple line shows what the capacity of the entire studio is. And then the orange line shows what the workload of the entire studio is. So we can see week by week whether the tasks assigned are pushing our workload above our current capacity, whether we need to either reschedule some tasks for further in the future or bring on more people in order to deliver the project on time. We can also get into the details of individuals and how they are tasked out. So you can see one person is red, they've been overtasked, another person is blue, they've been undertasked. I can then reassign this task from Eileen to Dawn. And after I make this new assignment, then when I come back to the resource planning, you can see that Eileen and Dawn now have a more balanced task load. Neither one of them is red, neither one of them is blue. They both have a good amount of work to do. So this is something that someone who's keeping an eye on a lot of information at the same time can very quickly get the information they need in order to keep the project balanced and able to keep people working and able to keep making progress. All of this is obviously progressing over time. You've got individual projects you can filter down to see a particular project. You can filter down to see particular departments on that project. For example, on this project, you can see that the layout department is really, really overtasked August 16th. That could be because the layout department started to roll off the project and roll on to the next project on August 16th, and they're being rolled off too soon. So this is a way for me to know 4 weeks in advance, hey, actually, we're going to need our layout artists till the end of August. We can't have everybody roll off August 16th. There's no way that we're going to finish the project that way. And we can start to make those adjustments in advance instead of waiting until August 16th and suddenly realizing that none of the shots have been finished in layout. Any questions about the stuff that I just talked about in tracking and reporting? You can type your questions into the chat. You can type your questions into the question and answer. I'll see the questions on either place. I'm happy to make this a more interactive experience. But if there are no questions about tracking and reporting, I will move on to my favorite aspect of Shotgrid, which is automation. And the reason this is my favorite is because it's the best. Automation is where Shotgrid really starts to shine. It's where Shotgrid really starts to add efficiency and starts to save money for your studio. We've got 2 APIs with Shotgrid. We've got the Python API and the REST API. The Python API is the original Shotgrid API. It's extremely powerful, and most of our integrations and automations are written using the Python API. The REST API offers a little more flexibility where you can start writing tools in other languages besides Python if you're using other languages in the automations that you already have in your studio. There's some basic tools, like for example, here I'm going to select 3 of these shots, and then I'm going to go to this delivery menu and choose send to client. Guess what? This delivery menu, it doesn't exist in Shotgrid. Transcode for review, copy for final delivery, send to client, none of that actually exists in Shotgrid. This is created by you. And you can add your own customizable menu items inside of Shotgrid for whatever tools it is that your studio has built, and then launch those tools directly out of the Shotgrid UI. So in this example, this would be a studio that's created several delivery tools that look into the folders where these files are, copy them, possibly change formats, possibly run different checks on those assets for delivery before they go onto the client. We talked a little bit about the plug and play integrations. So one of these integrations is Maya, which I showed you an example of, but we've also got Max, Flame, Nuke, Unreal. There's a ton of integrations that are available for Shotgrid. And even if you don't have a direct integration into that particular product, Shotgrid offers our publisher tool. The publisher tool allows you to take any file, even if it's created in a tool that you guys have created yourself, that it's completely secret, top secret tool that we don't have access to. You can still publish those files directly into Shotgrid. You can still integrate Shotgrid with your file management system, and Shotgrid can have a knowledge of what version was created, where it is on your disk, and be able to track that information, track your assets using the Shotgrid database. This becomes hugely powerful as you start to develop dependencies between various assets, when you want to go backwards and review and find out which asset was in a particular scene. This kind of stuff, it's incredibly difficult to track if you don't have some kind of database that's central, that's linked up to your review, it's linked up to your production management, where all of the information is going to the same place. We are reaching the end of the presentation. The last thing that I need to tell you about is how to try out Shotgrid if you want to try it out. There's a free evaluation for 30 days. There is a typo on this slide that should say Shotgrid software, but actually if you did type in Shotgun software, it just does redirect to the correct place. I just apparently have an old slide in this presentation. But yeah, you go to shotgridsoftware.com/trial. You can get a free evaluation for 30 days. And Brad has just put the link into the chat so you can copy paste it, since you can't copy paste from this beautiful blue gradient. There's no commitment, try it out. As you're trying Shotgrid out for 30 days, feel free to reach out to us, feel free to reach out to Motion Media to ask for help. We're happy to help you set up your site. We're happy to give you advice on how Shotgrid works, answer questions about how you can make the most of it at your studio. And that's pretty much it for this presentation. I would love to have a more conversation with y'all and hear more about what types of questions you have, what types of, what ways you think Shotgrid might be useful for your studio, how you're enjoying your lunch. How is the Kung Pao chicken? I want to know. Please share. You can type it into the chat. You can put it in the question and answer. Laura has a question. Laura, I'm going to unmute you. If you would like to, you can use the power of your human voice to talk with us about this. You do not have to. I'm not requiring you to speak. Oh, hi, Laura.
Hi. I'm from Spain. I understand in English, but I don't speak very well, but I tried.
Your English is far, far superior to my Spanish. I can promise you that. So I think we're doing great.
Yeah, I studied Shotgrid when I did the production course in Spain, and it's very interesting for me. But when I start in an animation studio, not all have this system, you know. Yeah. And for me, it's very important to know to use, because in the other countries, it's very important to know to use this program. Yeah, that for me it's important, this webinar. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm so happy that you enjoyed it. I think that one of the places Shotgrid is really useful is when you have people who are collaborating who are in different countries. Who you have, if you have folks in Spain and then you have folks in LA and they're trying to communicate with each other, they're trying to share visual information back and forth, they're trying to share review notes back and forth. It can be really helpful to have a tool like this where everyone knows where to go to get the information they need. Because if the folks that you're collaborating with are asleep when you're at work, you really need to know exactly where to get the information you need in order to make progress on the project.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Did you say that you use Shotgrid in school, in university?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. School.
There's a lot of Shotgrid use in universities. We have a very active educational program at Autodesk where we make sure that universities are able to use our software and to teach it to their students. It's a selfish cause for us. We want students to know how to use Shotgrid and to go out into the workforce and say, hey, this tool is really good, you should use it. But I've also heard that it's really useful for teachers who are teaching stuff like Maya or 3ds Max, where they can look at student work using Shotgrid and they can use those same review tools that students are later going to come into contact with in the real world. They can use them in the classroom in order to give reviews and teach students animation or the other things that they're learning in university.
Yeah. I worked at a pre-production 2D series, and we used Drive to do everything. Yeah, but it's difficult at time because it's if something lost or any information that it's not useful to do everything in Drive.
And when you say Drive is a cloud storage tool.
Cloud store, yes, with Excel, mails. We send every time emails. I saw you can send an email in Shotgrid, no, directly.
So Shotgrid has notes, which are stored in the Shotgrid database, but you can get email notifications so that when someone leaves a note on a task that you're assigned to, you will get an email as well as the note being in Shotgrid.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The key thing is to make sure that you can get the information wherever you're looking for information, but that everybody else can also see what happened in that review. That note isn't just for you, it's for the project as a whole. And it's possible that that task is going to get passed on to someone else later on, or that someone else is going to be working on a similar asset, and they need to see the information of what was said in the review. When you have notes going back and forth in email, or where people are directly emailing one another, then you can get information gets lost really quickly. You end up forwarding information. Hey, so-and-so's out sick. Let me forward you this like 7 email thread so that you know what they've been working on. They can't find the file. So Shotgrid is the idea is to keep all the information in one place and out of email as much as possible.
Yes. When I was assistant producer, many artists didn't have work to do. And I all time I need to check all the tasks to looking for something to do them, and it's the artists didn't have the automatism to know to do. I don't know. I explain myself very well.
I think I understand what you're saying. It's that an artist gets assigned with a particular task. When they're done with the task, then they don't know what to do next. They don't have the ability to give themselves another task or to figure out what they're supposed to work on next. They got assigned one thing and they're finished with it. So now they're literally sitting waiting for something else to do. And probably if they are human, which is often the case with artists, they may be distracting the person they're sitting next to by playing Nerf gun wars. At least that's what they did in my studio when I was working as a client. Thank you for having this little chat.
Thank you very much.
Does anybody else have any questions or thoughts that they would like to share or ask? You don't have to be as charming and wonderful as Laura. You can just be a regular person. It's fine. But if there aren't any more questions or if there are any more questions or comments left, then we're reaching the end of the time assigned for our webinar. it will be sad for me to see you all go, but you know, our time is limited together, not only in our webinar, but on Earth. So at some point, we do have to say goodbye.
That's deep.
It's always deep here at Autodesk.
Well, yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like any questions are coming in. So for anybody still here, if you are too shy to ask on here, feel free to email me. My email is brad@motionmedia.com. I can help answer any questions, or obviously if you're looking to purchase Shotgrid, that would be a great email as well. Otherwise, yep, Eli just posted that in the chat. That was a good idea. Thank you, Eli.
You did it for me. I had to return the favor.
I appreciate it. Otherwise, thanks, Eli. Thanks, Ethan. And thanks everybody for attending. Hopefully you enjoyed your lunch, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks everybody for coming. Have a good day.